What's important to me is that I think people understand is that our planet is one that's filled with such fear. We have fear of everything. And this is a focal point for fear. When you're dealing with someone coming in through your walls and taking you out of your bedroom to a strange spacecraft and doing things to your body, it makes you want to go inside and to understand, what is this place? Who are we? Why are we here? What is this happening? Why do some people see the spaceship and others don't? I don't know why. I really think it has to do with us going inside and saying that there's something more going in here than what meets the eye. And we have to go inside ourselves to understand what's going on. There's a self-exploration here that will open up one to other dimensions, other realities, and other possibilities. This place is not about money markets, picket fence, getting a car, and getting the best job. There's a lot more going on here than meets the eye.
I asked them why were they gathering eggs and this, and they told me they were making a hybrid race.
Mm-hmm. And for what? Okay.
They didn't want. I wanted to know for what, but they never gave an inkling of what it was for, or what this hybrid race would be doing, where it would be, or what. My grandfather died in 1940. So this was in the 1930s when these things were happening with them. She said they would be sitting on the side porch at night and they would see lights over the oil wells. And a lot of times they would see what they thought were little children dressed in white running around the oil wells. And on several times they saw it in the daytime. They would see these little children dressed in white. And once or twice they got up to go see if they could catch the little children and find out who they were. And they would start out, but by the time they would get there, the children would be gone. To me, they don't seem to understand emotions, because if they had, they would know that women just don't just have sex just to be, with no feelings. So no matter what they could have conjured up or shammed, it still felt like rape. And I don't think they have a concept of that. Their main concept was creating a hybrid breed. At least that's what they told me, that they were trying to create a race of people that could live in our atmosphere and in their atmosphere. And they had not yet produced that person. Now, on another occasion, I remembered being shown a baby that really favored my grandson a lot. If you would, give it the slant eyes, they weren't as big as their eyes, but it looked human. And I knew that this was my child, and I wanted to take that child with me, but they said that it would not be able to live in this atmosphere. Well, I know that it was physical, because if I did not get out of that car, where did I get all that dirt that was up to here on me? If I just stepped out of the car and looked up, because we were on pavement. So it's no way that I could have got that much dirt on me just standing outside a car on the street looking. And that's the first thing that let me know that it was real. And beside this knot, which might be, you could say that it could be anything. The bruises are real. Nobody is beating me up in my sleep, because if anybody hit me that hard, I would wake up. And the places where I have the bruises, I couldn't give them to myself. And like I said, if I bumped into something that hard, I would certainly remember it. So it's real to me. It's not really a frightening experience. It's just, it happens, and it doesn't leave you frightened. I think the thing that frightened me the most was that I was not consciously aware of what had happened, and I did not know what to put these ships with. I didn't have anything concrete to say, well, they're coming to do this or that. I just had the frightening feeling. And after I found out what had happened, I was at peace with what had happened, knowing that there's nothing that I can do about it, because I cannot stop them. Nobody can stop them from doing what they want to do. Nobody on this earth. Because they are too far advanced mentally and technologically for, we don't have a defense at all.
Yeah, it's like they do magic.
Yeah, they could come in today and take over if that was their desire. But like I said, I don't feel that it's their desire to take over through violence, and they don't care about governments. See, government control is not their thing. They want bodies, and they want minds that are going to do what they want the minds to do, but they need the bodies to do whatever it is with. And that's where we come in.
My daughter was going to the icebox refrigerator to get some milk for the baby. And she notices two bright lights, like spotlights, and then they converge into one big round ball, illuminate the whole area, with the trees swaying and would almost blind me, because I couldn't look directly because it's too bright, like an eclipse. That's what I took it to see. So I looked at it on an angle, you might say, you see. And then, too, the trees were swaying. And then we heard outside this thrashing going around the tree. And so I got kind of shook, naturally. So I whipped out my guns. I loaded them, and my daughter ran, locked the door. Something did snap in my mind, though, not to shoot. Because it's a rule, anytime I heard anything outside at night, the first thing I would do is get my flashlight and a gun. I don't care what it is. I'll go outside and start searching. But something clicked in my mind. I said, don't go outside. Don't go outside. And I stepped the guns there on top of the deep freeze and just looked out the window and just observed the best I could. You have to see it yourself to really have an idea what I'm talking about. Because nothing I know of turns its colors, all different colors, beautiful colors, and do a 90-degree angle without making a sound, and hover there in space. And you sit there and look and all, you know. Oh, I said, man, it's pretty. But yet still, you was frightened because you was dealing with something that you never seen before. You had no idea. You see, you didn't know what it was going to do any harm or what.
Members of the Richards family weren't the only ones affected by the presence of the strange craft.
I have a doghouse out there on that side. And them dogs scurry up under the building and stayed till the whole event was over. They didn't bark at all. No, sirree.
With a feeling of relief, Richards watched as the light dimmed somewhat and began to ease away. But suddenly, it made a sharp turn and approached the trailer again.
When it came back up the second time, I felt like death was at hand. I figured this was it. As soon as it touched down, then the whole area just lit up. See, you was actually blind, you see, but you could hear the thrash and walk around this particular tree. Just this one tree now. Then my daughter said, look at the tree, just pulling on the tree, and then next thing you heard the tree snap, that limb snap. And I tried to call for help. This time my lights went completely out and came back on. She couldn't call out. Telephone line was dead. You didn't hear a buzz tone or anything. Couldn't nobody call in, I couldn't call out, just complete like your wires were cut until they left.
I had my first sightings back in 1973 while I lived on Charleston Air Force Base. We had a flap that lasted for about a period of a week where we had numerous sightings. There were multiple sightings where you had 3 to, I would say, up to 9 crafts in that area, mainly over the Charleston River Basin. Yeah. It was a circular type object that had a dome on top. It had lights that were revolving in a counterclockwise rotation. I can even remember, I think it was a football game that they had on the base. And, I don't know how true this is. I heard it from quite a few different people. They said a saucer-shaped object came over the football field, hovered above the game for a period of 5 or 10 seconds, and then just shot off towards the Ashley River area again.
When was that?
This was right back, I guess it was during 73, 74, right around that same period of time. When we were having quite a few UFO sightings in the area.
Which area is the most frequently you have observed UFO?
Okay, it's always been associated right around the Ashley River area. From Somerville, I'd say up as far as the end of Dorchester Road. So it seems like most of the sightings are associated right around a military type installation and also around the Ashley River area.
Yeah.
There have been numerous sightings, particularly right around in this area. There's been a few at the Barnwell nuclear plant, Naval Weapons Station, the Navy base, quite a few right around the Air Force base. So it seems like whoever or whatever we're dealing with, they tend to want to know something about our military. We passed the Kings Grant area on Dorchester Road, and you've got a column of, it's like a wooded area. You've got woods on both sides of the road. And it seems like it just hit us at the same time to look up. Now, my car, all the windows are tinted in my car. I've got a band across the front windshield that is, blackened out. And you can only see, at night, it's real hard to see out of any of the windows unless you see something that's coming directly in front of you. Okay, I'd say the object appeared at an altitude of probably about 500, no more than 1,000 feet up is when I first saw it. And it was anywhere from an eighth to a quarter mile in front of us. It came down, I'd say, at about a 70-degree angle. Okay, it came from an easterly direction, came down, and what I really noticed about that was strange. Bill said, look, he said it's doing triangular patterns. That's what it was doing. It was a glowing object. It's doing triangular patterns through the sky. It came down at about a 70-degree angle. It made a loop, probably about, I'd say about 100 feet above treetop level.
Yeah.
Came down, made a loop, and he went back up at the same type angle. And I thought it was really strange that they would come down and they can only be seen directly in front of us. Okay, and I didn't think there was any mistaking, of it being the object because of what he had told me about the object doing triangular patterns. So we saw that. We went a little bit farther down Dorchester Road, and we turned into another subdivision called Forest Hills. We went back in that area, and you've got the Ashley River area. It's marshy.
Right.
We went behind a house there, and we just stood around. He just had an impulse to turn there. We went back there, and we stood around, and it was like someone cut on a light bulb out in the far distance. Just saw a bright flash, and then went back out. And I thought about it. It could have been the object. It may not have been. I took into account quite a few different things. I noticed that just prior to seeing the object, we had a C-141 fly overhead, and it was heading towards the base. You could tell the size of it, the lighting, things like that. You can usually tell, what type of object you have in the sky. I've been around military objects for quite a period of time. I've lived on military installations all my life. So I've seen, what flies and what doesn't, and I've never seen anything like that.
I was abducted just about a year ago, last July. I was on a camping trip up near Reno, Nevada, alone. I was camping alone, and had gone into the city of Reno to try to make some money. And as I approached my car, this is around 11:30 at night, as I approached my car, which was parked on the street, a group of people, a cluster of people, was walking toward me. And as I got just about up to my car, I could tell that these people were walking in unison. I thought that was a bit unusual. And I began slowing down. And they were about approximately 15 feet away. I realized that these were not real people. And at that point, I said, run. And of course, at that point, I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. It was circular. I just remember compartments. I remember them shuffling me from rooms to rooms. I remember them laying on a bed, and there they were doing an operation on me. And I remember this lady who's been in my life apparently for quite some time. She was standing to my left, and there were two men. They were men. For some reason, I knew that they were men, doctors, I would imagine. They were operating on me. And she kept telling me to look into my eyes, and everything will be okay. If you could, the day after, remember everything that they did to you, you might wind up committing suicide or taking a leap off of a bridge, and maybe slowly filtering out through hypnosis. It's like taking a safety lid off very, 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 very slowly instead of just ripping it off and letting it, take off. I'd like to see the scientific community to begin to seriously study this phenomenon. Many of them have been intimidated because they're afraid of being ridiculed for studying a quack field, as it's been labeled sometimes. I think it's because it's only through our scientists getting involved and that we're ever going to get to the bottom of it, I think, really. I mean, it's gone on too long where they just totally ignore all this hard evidence, people with marks, people who have all kinds of problems. I think it's time that they stop playing games and got involved to help us, because we need it. I think it's important that that people accept an abduction for what it is. Because I have met people at various UFO symposiums and things who deny the fact that they were abducted, even though all those telltale signs, you can read them off. They may say this, they may say that, but they go through denial. So they have to want the help. And that only begins by accepting what has happened to you.
Can we deny an abduction and be a contactee?
I don't know. But that's where it has to start. They have to accept what has happened to them, and then they can move on to get some help.
I remember briefly they were 8 feet tall. They had black robes and they had hoods on, but I never saw their faces. But I do remember that they grabbed me by my arms with these like spider-like fingers, and they escorted me to the ship. And they held me firm, and they would let me know that I wasn't going to be able to get away if I wanted to. It was more like I had to go. It was my turn. And they told me it was my turn, and I was afraid. I was very afraid. I think the hypnosis session, when I took it several months after I was abducted, at the time I didn't even believe it myself. But after the hypnosis helped me relax more and understand myself.
These beings are here. They're here. They're just sitting right up there.
We met up with Prophet Yahweh, seer of Yahweh, at Doolittle Park off Lake Mead. We picked the day, we picked the time, and we picked the location.
Everyone's going to think you're absolutely nuts.
Well, I thought I was absolutely nuts.
Until he says he saw UFOs. Over the years, 1,500 of them.
Can we make it 1,501 today? What do you think?
I'll try it.
He says the voice in his head told him to go public now, so we took him up on his offer, and we scanned the skies. Nothing but a few clouds. When the prophet started praying for a sighting, I wasn't exactly convinced.
I pray, oh Yahweh, that you send a sighting so that they know that I am not mentally ill. I am not a false prophet, like those who seek to kill me say I am.
I see something straight up.
Oh, brother, look at it. There it is.
You can barely see it, a white speck. Then another sighting.
There it is. I got it.
Photojournalist Jonathan Hawkins locks in on it. Let's take a closer look here. It's an orange sphere that appeared out of nowhere. I call the boss with an unexpected change in my story.
I can see it clear as day. In fact, it's bright.
I can't believe this.
It's moving pretty fast.
It's going to Nellis Air Force Base. It wants to be seen.
We called Nellis to see what these things might be. Guess what? They didn't call us back. But this thing started coming back toward us.
It's coming toward us now, I think.
What?
See, it's coming up toward us.
Back. Whoa, man! Oh, hallelujah!
Then, a few seconds later, it disappeared.
It's going back up in space.
Prophet Yahweh isn't concerned. He says it'll be back.
This happened in 1961, Tuesday the 19th of September. And my wife and I were returning from New Hampshire, from Canada to New Hampshire. We were driving along Route 3, and it was approximately 11 o'clock at night in the evening when we saw what looked like a bright star in the heavens. It was the brightest star up there, and it was very clear night. So my wife remarked, I was driving the car, and she remarked that the star had begun to move. So this caused me to look through the windshield up toward the sky, and I told her that it was probably a satellite. Nothing to get alarmed about. We did have a pair of 7x50 crescent binoculars with us. So I stopped the car, and we got out, and she took the binoculars and was looking at the object, and I reached under the seat to get our little doggie, a little dachshund, and put the chain on her to walk her about while my wife was looking at the object. And she then passed the binoculars to me and said, well, you must really look at this satellite because it's not behaving as we would expect a satellite to behave like. Well, I took the binoculars from her, and I too began looking, and surprisingly, this, what I thought was a star and a satellite, began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed. I was standing, to give a picture, I was standing facing the west, which would have been toward Vermont, and the object was coming from my left, which would have been to the south of me, and as it passed my right shoulder, it was quite a distance out, it made a left turn, completing the turn, and coming in toward me. Well, this caused me to become quite alarmed, and I told my wife, well, apparently it is not a satellite, it must be a passenger plane, and they obviously are looking at us, and I thought that the pilot was having fun, that he could easily see our car with the dome light on. We had not passed any traffic that evening, going or coming in either direction. So I felt a bit uncomfortable to see this, what I thought was a plane, come in our direction, so I returned to the car, and so did she, and we drove down the highway. We continued driving south, and my wife would occasionally remark that this object was still following us. It was flying in a very erratic pattern, and she wanted me to stop, and I would occasionally and look over toward her side, and I could see that this light was still out there moving about. It would go up, and then it would come down at very rapid and odd patterns of flight. Well, then I thought it was probably a military craft, and I was thinking of the hot rod type flyer, and apparently they were having fun with us. These are the thoughts that were going on in my mind, because I had not at any time ever given any thought to UFOs. You might say that I was a bit cynical about the entire idea concerning unidentified flying objects. Well, this continued on for several miles as we would travel and stop and look and then continue to travel again. And finally, my wife became very upset. She said, I must stop the car again. Look, right overhead. And I looked through the windshield off to the right on the passenger side of the car, and this object now was very extremely close, and it was moving backwards. And what I failed to mention is when we saw the object off in a great distance, it appeared to be winking, but now that it was close, it looked as if there was just one solid band of light, and this was moving backwards. And I had slowed the car down to approximately 5 miles an hour. Well, this was very upsetting, so I came to a complete stop in the center of the highway. I got out of the car, and I took the binoculars. I rested my left arm on the door that was open at the car door, and my right elbow on the roof of the car, and I tried to look, but the motor was running, so I had to step away. As I stepped away from the car, the object swung from the passenger side over to the left, which would have been the side that I was driving, and making a large arc-like turn, placing it over a field. Well, this was very alarming to me, and I began walking across the highway, looking up at the object with the binoculars, putting them down, shaking my head, saying, well, this just can't be true. I don't believe it. And I continued to walk until I was about, I would say approximately 100 feet in this field, across this field, and the object was just above me. And this is when while looking with the binoculars, I could see what I thought was approximately 9 to 11 men. I would describe them. I would say that they were men. There was nothing grotesque about them. Looking back at me, looking down through this plate of glass, a series of windows toward me. So I then was quite alarmed, but they, of the group that was looking, they all turned to the back of, that was facing the back of them. There was a panel. It looked as if it was a panel. They began pulling levers. Only one object continued to stare from the window down toward me. And I then saw 2 red lights on the side of the craft, which seemed to be the extension of a wing, fan-type wing, I would describe it. Not a conventional wing that we associate with airplanes, but more of a fan-type thing, moving away from the side of this object, which had the shape of the so-called flying saucer. Well, this was too much for me, and I made a hasty retreat to the car, screaming to the wife that they had seen me, they had seen us, and we had to get away. And this was the extent of the sighting, which I found very distressing and very difficult to believe.
Mr. Hill, did you report this to anyone?
Yes, we did. After we arrived home in Portsmouth, well, we decided we wouldn't mention this to anyone, that it was too ridiculous, too absurd for us to believe. Yet we knew we had seen something that was strange to us. I suppose we can both tell what a plane looked like, and I failed to mention that there was the absence of any sound. There was absolutely no sound associated with this object. It must have at the time been approximately 100 feet up above my head. This would be about 10 stories up. The size of it was about approximately, if you were looking at a large military plane or at any commercial airliner, from tail to head, this is the size of it as the series of windows were around it. This is how huge it was. When we arrived in Portsmouth, we decided not to tell anyone, but my wife decided she would tell her sister. Well, she called her sister, and she said, well, hang up. She was going to call a friend of hers that is a physicist and ask what he knows about these things. So she called us, and her sister called us back to tell us that the physicist had suggested that we go out and see if there was any radioactivity around, anything unusual about the car, if we had a compass to take it with us. Well, this was too much for me. I told my wife that as far as I was concerned, I wanted to forget the whole thing. And so she said, well, where's the compass? And I told her, well, I don't know. I put it somewhere. And she said, well, where's the compass? I said, oh, geez, if you're going to keep this up, I'll smash the compass. And she said, well, if you do, I'll go out and buy another one. And so she found the compass. She went out, and she came back in to the house very excited and insisted on me going out and looking at her car. We were using her car at the time. Mm-hmm. Well, on the trunk of her car, there were these large, shiny spots about the size of a silver dollar. There must have been approximately 20 of these spots, not in any particular pattern, but just these spots on the trunk. After having traveled the distance we had, the car was quite dusty, but these spots were very, very highly shiny. And wherever she would put the compass near these spots, the compass would spin. But if she placed the compass close to any of the areas where the spots weren't located, surprisingly, the compass then would tilt downward toward the middle of the car. Well, I thought this was a bit unusual because I did try to say, well, and any time you take a compass and place it around any metal, particularly like a car with a battery, it will attract a magnet to it. But the fact that the compass would spin only in the area where the spots was located, I thought was a bit unusual. And then this is when my wife decided, well, we should notify someone, and we thought of notifying the military base located in this area.
And briefly, what was their reaction to this?
It was curious and interesting. I didn't want any parts of it. I told my wife that she could go ahead and contact them and leave me out of it. But while talking to her, then they asked for me to give my account of it. And this drew me into the conversation, so I also talked to a major And he then explained to me that the conversation was going to be monitored, and that I was to hold on, and the conversation was not going to take place at this particular military establishment, but elsewhere, but he did not designate where. So I held on for a few minutes, brief minutes, and then another voice came on telling me to tell all that I had seen and to give an account, a full account and description of this thing that I had seen.
And have you heard from them since that time?
This was on, well, they called back the following morning about 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. I thought what this officer had to say was very interesting. He did not elaborate on why he said this, but he said he had been up all night working on the description of the wings of this and the two red lights. And that could I give any more information? Well, I had given him all the information I could at the time about it, and that was the extent of the contact we had with the military, with the Air Force.
You describe these people or things you saw at the window.
To give a description of them?
Yes.
Yes, well, there was nothing unusual about them. They did have on what I thought was a black type shiny uniform, similar to the kind you find motorcyclists wearing, the black leather type jackets and whatnot. And the one that I will now, just for identifying purposes, call a leader, well, he had on a military type cap with the visor, while the others did not. And they moved back to the away from the window, while this one with the black leather type uniform, I will say uniform, continued to look down at me.
I think you indicated earlier that they were pretty human looking, weren't
Yes, and you have to consider that looking at anyone in a window 10 stories up with a binocular, the only thing you can discern is that they look human and nothing grotesque about them.
Mr. Hill, this is Wes Fitch. Did you feel there was anything sinister about these people? Did you get that impression?
Yes, I did. Only that it was a strange situation, and therefore I have thought of this many times. That is to say, was there anything sinister about them, or was it because of the unusual situation that I was in, magnifying my feelings? I did feel that there was something sinister, strange, unusual about the whole thing.
Did you feel that those spots had anything to do with that beeping sound that followed your car?
I failed to mention that, didn't I? When I returned to the car, when we were up in the mountains, when I mentioned to my wife that, oh my God, I said, they are looking at us and they have seen us and they're coming after us. When I returned to the car, there was a series of beeps. These beeps were very peculiar because it was much like a tuning fork being struck and placed against you, a very subtle type vibration. And that's the way the car vibrated. And it was beep, 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 beep. And I said to my wife, my God, what is that? I said, look out the window. They're right overhead. And she looked out of the window, but you couldn't see anything. And later we find out that you couldn't see the sky as well. So apparently the craft had moved overhead over us.
Do you think that the metal discs then did have anything to do with that beeping sound?
I do, yes. The thing that has continued to be an enigma, a puzzle to me, is that I said, my God, they're going to capture us. And I have never understood why. I cannot understand why I made that remark, only to have the beeping sound. And then 35 miles further south, we were beeped again, and this is the only time my wife and I then began to communicate with one another by saying, well, what was it we saw? This is surprising because that 35-mile period, we did not discuss anything.
This is Earl Neff speaking. You didn't have a relaxed feeling at any time, did you?
Yes.
You did?
After I returned to the car and I told my wife they were going to capture us, and she looked out of the window and she said she could not see them, or the object, and then we had the series of beeps. There is just a void, you might say, because we did not, again, mention anything about having seen anything until we were now 35 miles further south, and we saw what we thought was a bright moon. And I said, oh my God, not again. And then we were beeped again, and then from that point, we started talking with one another, about, well, what do you think of that? And my wife asked me, well, do you believe in flying saucers now? And I said, oh, don't be silly, of course not.